Islam, welcome. Hope everybody can hear me. It's definitely I don't know what day is this? March 2nd. Okay. I don't like dating it. It doesn't matter. Hope everybody's been well. I've been doing the knowledge to you know what? Hold on. So what's been going on so much since the beginning of so-called 2019? There's been a plethora of extreme innovation in the areas of true information and discourse amongst the community that is being referred to as the underground. And that underground community, which is the equivalent of the Nexus in Oslo, Norway, for people that don't know what that is, that's the interdict of all of the information that travels throughout the so-called internet before it goes out into the backup generators and CERN to be converted into milkable, digitized energon cubes that they could manifest more energy to the dark matter beast machine quantum DARPA computers that they've been using to spy on us and create predictive programming that has led to the confusion amongst us as real human beings. And what we're going to get into is the underlying aspect of where and why this thing is been going on for so long. You know, we all have aspects of this, and therefore none of us can lay claim to the greater body of work and truth that is about to be revealed by the Most High as he brings his judgment down on the Areopagite reprobates. So what we have to do is discern what's what before they actually blur the lines, as Robin Thicke and Pharrell made a song, and T.I. made a song to represent and call into existence the idea of a world where nothing is definitive. And in a world where nothing is definitive, nobody has claim to anything. And that ultimately is the goal. What we perceive as power that these people want will always be the opposite of what we think it is based upon how it's presented. So the new rule of thumb with information is whatever is apparent, whatever is the apparent and is projected and is agreed upon as the mainstream or agreed upon truth is then the opposite. Therefore, as a result, in that interplay of information, the opposite is then also true. Whatever then is labeled as false then obviously must be correct. In being a more and studying myself as was laid out as the dictum from the prophet at the behest of those who came before and the ancestral powers that came before, going all the way back to the divine source that we refer to as Allah. I was able and am able to see from my perspective the unifying factor between the different subdivisions and substations that exist in the ethers of all this information that we are consuming at such a rate that we are becoming vomitous with it. And so, because I am not a prophet, and I am not a black leader, and I am not a black identity extremist, and because I am not a Freemason, and I am not a misogynist or a hater of anyone other than the great Satan and the destructor and killer of children. So whoever is doing that, regards to what color or what nationality or what group or whatever belief or whatever uh, 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 Netflix show they watch, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the result of what it is that they are doing to Allah, creation. And because Allah represents the higher self, to me, it represents the higher self to everyone that understands Allah in the name that they understand as. Yet, because I am also not a Muslim, I am not confined to the limited identity that was corrupted and flipped to the point that Allah has set locusts and plagues upon the so-called holy city of Mecca. And instead of repenting, the devils who call themselves sheikhs or imams over there and over here have endorsed their so-called representative to sign a pact treaty with the great Satan to accept the coming of the Dajjal, this and the so-called Antichrist, and sealed it with a French kiss. So when people say there's no difference between Muslim and Muslim, and when I look at what was written by the Prophet Noble Ali and others concerning the fact that we as Muslims give respect to all prophets and not just Muhammad, whereas Muslims only strictly have subjugated themselves to the will of Muhammad or what they perceive Muhammad to be, and have added themselves to be slaves to Allah. And being that Jesus is mentioned more times in the Quran than Muhammad, I'm looking at the whole situation as there's more unity in a certain way of thinking as opposed to going along with what people have perceived these things to be. So this does not mean all Muslims are cursed based on what has happened, but it is to say that the Muslims, just like the Catholics, are now in the same boat. You know what I'm saying? Your boy just linked up with the great devil to do whatever. So what we're going to get into is what's really going on in terms of the access points and the reality of what we've been really dealing with when it comes to this quest of birthright, nationality, inheritance, and why we as Moors have been so persecuted and misrepresented, and who is doing that, and why they want to benefit in doing that. So to start, we'll get into the, let's see, let's start with this. This is a graph of the body from the so-called Baha'i movement. The Baha'i movement was a movement, I don't want to get too deep into it, but it was a Sufi type movement that attracted a lot of people of renown and bread, and was a secret movement to preserve all of the so-called Tartarian and ancient Barbarian architecture and palaces that were on the chopping block to be destroyed by the true enemies of humanity, posing as the the list of characters that we've been watching and hearing about on the internet since we can remember. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get into all of them specifically, but I would like to get into some of the ones and the root of who schooled these people, created these beasts, to be able to then isolate why you are such a situational threat to the overall agenda, and what the threat to the overall agenda is really specifically above everything else is the so-called original family. The original family, or the original family of humanity, is the ultimate threat to the forces of darkness, because of the fact that it is the remnant and exists within it the potential of Allah's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, and the summation of all of the realms comprised. So in order for us to receive the greater gift of the greater heavens, this is the place that is incarnated to learn the truth of what it is we would be inheriting. If you are going to receive a great inheritance, you can't, and you were, let's say, somebody who was caught up in the streets and only knew how to turn, how to flip an eighth. You know what I'm saying? If somebody was to come to you with all of the riches in the world to do that, the most thing you could do with it would be to, really become the premier drug dealer of earth. Because at that time, all you know is how to flip bricks. So in the end, as much as you would help people, you would ultimately destroy the world, because you don't have the wherewithal to understand how the mechanisms of the world work enough for you to know what not to do. Knowing what to do is not the issue. It's knowing what not to do. When people speak of the so-called, when I watch people and they talk about the so-called Israelites and all of these type of people, and how great they were, and this and that, and all of the stuff that so-called Yahweh gave them, or that Yahweh gave them, and what the Bible's this and that, and how this is who we are and what we need to follow. What we first have to understand is that the reason why we are, as a people who are the descendants of those people, so divided was because we were divided from the beginning. If you take the story, if you take the allegorical story, which in reality most likely was a real story of events, because if they weren't, then they would fade away. That's the one thing you have to understand. Like, if it was something that trivial and that, you know, uh, uneventful or mythical, you would forget about it. But you haven't. It's reinforced every generation. So that must mean it's used for something. Therefore, the energy that abounds in it, as was written in it, it was written at a time historically when the author of it was being redrawn and being reframed to be something that he and his people basically weren't. By a people that his people basically used as money changers, who weren't necessarily of their people, but adopted aspects of how we or they lived at that time. Therefore, as it was being drawn up, you had the forces that were trying to stop that, which are the same forces that's trying to stop us today. But while that was being done, there was already a version of it that was basically related back, if we get into the Geneva Bible. And then before that, you have all the different versions that were made of it from before, that all wound up in the Shakespeare manuscript that we call the King James Version, which needed to be stopped at all costs by the papacy, based upon them being under the jurisdiction or fighting to see who was going to be under who, whether they were going to be on top or their benefactors were. And we'll get into who the benefactors were in a second. So we today are the remnants of this situation. And because we don't understand our bodies and the importance of our genders, and this idea of gender representing a physical manifestation of polarity, we are hard pressed to weed our way through this new thing they've been trying to flip on us since, in our lifetime, I would say since 1492. But really, this is maybe about, really, I would say from 584 or 582, what they call 1582. So this on your screen is the representation of the unified body of everybody. So when we say Adam, look at it also from the different perspectives. It's Adam, right? It's Atum, right? It's Atom, right? It's Matter, right? It's Adam, right? Meaning a damned, right? Which we have been. So speaking of it from the plural or the royal we, right? I'm not going to get into all of the specific religious aspects of that because, one, I'm not a Christian in the the traditional sense, and two, I am not going to strive to get people. This is not about converting anybody. This is about just understanding our perspective in it, or as best as I can understand our perspective of it, as Moors, Asiatics, Moorish Americans, specifically. You know, so in that we have Adam and Eve, and then you throw Lilith in there and Seth. So this is now the original seed product that is there after the so-called flood, right? So matter of fact, I'm just gonna scroll down because we're gonna go through different parts of it in each section. Right now we're just going to deal with these parts. Okay, so but I'm gonna just show you. So see, each one has a manifestation. Everything and everybody that you think or they think that has existed or was important to exist that was related to us is basically categorized within the great body of the arm, leg, arm, head. This is the basic genetic formula of reality in the manifestation of the different avatars, i.e., people that came in the name of Allah after the great cataclysm to bring about the unification or the rise of man. So all of this is really just that. Essentially, we are each a manifestation of all of this ancient thing, because each one of these beings, each one of these names represents an aspect of history that led everything and everybody to where we are right now. Okay, that's why you don't know about any of these people. You only know about some of these people. That's why some of them are highlighted: Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Bastana. Some people don't know who that is. You know, who else? I got Zoroaster, definitely Buddha. See, Zoroaster, Krishna. So when you understand it from the perspective of more, you understand that time never was when. Then there never was a time when time was not. Because if there was a time when that time began, there surely would be a time that it would end. So there is no ending to Allah. Therefore, the beginning, what we understand creation, was based upon the negative aspects of what came before. But we have no knowledge of what came before because everything that we get is regurgitated to us from somebody else that needed us to believe something else in order for them to be able to control what they perceive reality should be for us, because we can't be trusted to know any type of truth. So once you understand that that is the basic aspect of their structure, when you watch the movie Captain America, you see it talks about, you see when they go to Captain America Winter Soldier, they go into the second joint and they go and meet the AI computer Arnim Zola. And before he starts busting it down, he busts down the mission statement of Hydra. And the mission statement of Hydra is basically the mission statement of the true God of these people. You know what I'm saying? And basically is that human beings can't be trusted to, that in order for human beings to be free, they must realize that they can't be trusted with their freedom. They need to be ruled and they need to be told what to do. That is coming from the perspective of someone that is what you would understand or perceive to be a nihilist, right? A control freak, somebody who could not control their own circumstances, so they're trying to inflict this control. So imagine who they refer to as Lucifer as that manifestation. So from that, um, forgive the roundness in the earth thing, in the earth graph, but this was the only one that I could find that kind of fit the summation I was trying to uh, elect. In Karl Barnes' model, the four Gauss post the electromagnetic energy were forced and opposed to the less as the one today, meaning that the greenhouse effect back in the days basically had a longer outreach for radiation. So if we look at stuff from the perspective that this is the dome, right? Say this is the dome and then this is the place in between. All of the energy that basically was coming in was more direct. So of course things is going to be larger, one, and then two, it's going to be more expansive in terms of how it's going out. So there was some sort of opening. So I'm thinking that's what they was trying to fit the Tower of Babel into, to get into that opening so that way they could actually get out, build something so tall that it would actually be able to get to this little opening here and then suck everything down. So Allah shut all that down after, you see, which then basically became a situation with the ozone, see, being closer to the canopy, basically just wiped all of that out. So look, according to Karl Barr, the weather canopy created the double atmospheric pressure we have today. It blocked the UV radiation completely. Lead, concrete, water all stopped X-rays, so this canopy prevented the X-rays from entering. The supercooled the ice, which was magnetically held up, what they called the Meissner effect. They always name stuff after Ashkenazi Jews. The percent of oxygen in the atmosphere was greater than today, 35%. Today's level is 75, nitrogen 21%, oxygen. Breathing pure oxygen gives a person more energy, which is why the oxygen bars. This is why they had to do the barium and the strontium in the seeding the clouds with that stuff, because they want to be able to project a blue beam thing up there as well. So they needed the air to be somewhat denser. So now that Gates is talking about blocking the sun and nobody is checking him, like this, like who's, you dig what I'm saying? Like y'all talking about getting Soros and doing the military tribunals, but who's trying to stop this maniac from blocking the sun? I already saw the movie on that. Y'all did the movie on that with the transgender Cillian Murphy, who played Scarecrow in Batman Dark Knight, called Sunshine. If y'all ain't see that movie, go see that. Where they gotta go jumpstart the sun because the world is freezing. So all of this is to say that the flood, the waters that came up from the waters was so powerful that it basically wiped out the upper canopy that they was able to deal with to get the energy in. So with the lack of the direct blocking the UVs, or with the which prevented the X-rays coming down, that might have affected all of the so-called old ones, you know, the ones that Allah told us that we needed to destroy, which again is written in the Bible. I don't know why these niggas they be so Christianized, but when you read that book, you read and you see that it's also explaining how we got in this situation. When you understand it from the perspective of one of the participants, as opposed to the observer. See, it was written so everybody could be down with it, but it was only written about and for a certain type of people, which is why the prophet was wise enough to tell us not to throw it away with everything else. You dig? So that's what makes us Muslims, like the so-called Muslims in the Nation of Islam, somewhat kin in that is the fact that we are the only Muslims that really openly acknowledge Isa, Yeshua, see what I'm saying? Who they call Jesus. So, due to this great upheaval that was leveled on them, the reason why it was leveled on them was because of the rampant uh, decadence and thing that these beings that had no moral fiber that existed from whatever existed from whatever, you know what I mean? Whoever created them. We don't know if Allah created these things beforehand, but most likely it did. You know what I'm saying? Either way, they wasn't nice to people. It was a very horrid time for living things, you know. Yet it was also, fantastic in the conceptual science fiction, you know what I'm saying, dream imagination type thing, which is why they keep marketing it back to us over and over again. You see what I'm saying? Through all of these stories, because they know that they have to reinforce the memory from the perspective of it not being us. Or if we aren't in it, we're always the people getting speared by the giants, you see? So again, these are just rough depictions of what I'm saying. These are not the main body of the stuff, but this is going along with what you read in Kings, what you read in Acts, what you read in Deuteronomy. Leviticus was all about laying the law down. That was all about establishing how Levi was going to work with the rest of the tribes in order to maintain the and work with the supernatural ordinance that gave us power over those that fell. But it wasn't just the Hebrews, because remember, the Hebrews were the conglomeration of all of the different tribes that descended from these people from back in the days that happened to be in what they call Egypt, that for whatever reason consolidated behind what Musa wanted to do, and then basically led to the overall destruction of what we understand as Canaan. But by the time they went to dwell in Moab, because they were peace with the Moab, Pahath Moab, they those that came with them along the way were also a part of that covenant. You see what I'm saying? So by the time we get to stuff like this, the actual destruction, knowing them was already in the boat. So you're talking about a major upheaval, another reset, another redo. You know what I'm saying? To strive to get the world back into balance of what the actual purpose was for. Period. So because we all can agree that this allegedly thing happened, that's the only one thing that is crossing all the cultures that people are saying actually happened. It was some sort of great situation, and then everything was changed up. So if everything else is a lie, at least we can do the knowledge and say that that is what it is, right? For the time being, at least. Only because we see evidence of it. So based on that pre-flood model that we just did the knowledge to, the going back, let's say before that, this is one of the old so-called graphs of creation that they don't show you, because they Freemasons and they be hiding stuff. This is all, you can go to the Bible verses, and this basically verifies this graph. Basically, same thing. All of this was thing, because they needed those of them that was going to be on this to be on that, because see, they believe that they are God, and so as the fallen angels, They have to have the knowledge of God in order to influence whatever man, which is crazy because the very concept of the angels is that they don't interfere with man. But everything they do is inverted because they're insane. So this, the anointed cherub, right, that covereth, he is the one that manifests the veil. So this would, let's say, represent the creative week, right, which they call the cosmic light. Day one, the cosmic light. Day two, the firmament. Day three, the dry land and vegetation. Uh, Day four, the solar light. Day five, the fish and the fowl. Day six, man. Day seven, the Sabbath. This is when we resting. So each one of these could represent whatever millennia, time immemorial, we can never truly calculate. And it doesn't matter. What does matter is that this is the only linear aspect of time that most likely is correct, due to the fact that it's the one that's consistent amongst most of the ancient stuff that we read that exists before the tainting, before the reconstruction stuff. You could read the Ramayana, you could read the Dhamma. It all has variations of the same type of thing. So we can conclude that that is consistent with this. You did. So within all of that, we understand that then this represents the mirror. This is the duality. This is the lens by which everything is brought through. And this is the demiurge. This is the space in between. This is the plasma sphere, the thing that they use to negate the true light. You understand? This is the thing they're feeding, right? The chaotic earth, right? So the original earth is always still there. It's still in its pristine thing. Before Eve, before Adam, it's still within its thing because it exists within the pre-creation mind of Allah. Therefore, it can't not exist. Because there is no end to Allah. Therefore, there is no future to Allah. There is only Allah. There's only the reality that we exist in now. You dig? Because all of it is maintained. The idea of past, present, and future is a lie. So if you're trying to debunk anything and you're basing it on a specific time frame or time structure alone, it's false. Because that time structure, if it got 1,000 in front of it, is a fiction. It's a fiction. Because they invented that in the year that they call 1582. But to do that, they had to set things up back in 1451. You understand what I'm saying? They had to set things up by 1491. Like they had to do it. They had to do steps because they're following the steps of creation. They are following what their father Lucifer has set them to do. You understand? Like this is they whether you believe this shit or not, this is what these niggas believe. They believe that they are the inverted aspects of Allah and that they are actually helping God by trying to destroy him. This is how sick, this is what you're dealing with. But y'all niggas want to get into the Bible verses, the actual verse and how it and who it, like, you know, if you know it apply to you, then do what you need to do with it for your people. Stop debating people that's not part of your nation to discuss what it is that the shit was written for you for. These people been knew what it was. This is before they was calling it a flat earth and all that. It was referred to as the stationary, or the squared or the stationary earth. Okay, this was the basis of it. As you can see, the hole at the top by which everything falls down from. You see, this is the navel, right? Then out, here's the ice wall that they talk about. You understand? All of us was raised under the same lies, and all of us got to come to the understanding of these lies and accept them at our own pace. You cannot force somebody to accept the stuff that you're talking about, because then you fall into, you cross the line into them. You now trying to convert them. The only time conquering come into it is when all talking is done. You dig? And and Allah is a conqueror. Moors, particularly as a people, we conquerors. Everybody want to shy away from that. No. Mm-mm. Our people shut shit down. Our people went in, took the stuff that y'all was messing up, cleaned it up, taught y'all how to bathe. You understand? Gave the Africans a monetary system. We did it all. So that's why y'all hate. But in that, we also gave you this. So in this, the Freemasons and all the religions and all of the colors and all of the nations, they all knew that this is what it was going down to be. I remember asking an elder back in right after I did Black Nazis about this very topic that everybody's so thin with now. And he basically urged me that the more I would get into that, the more harder it would be to do other work. He was very ambiguous in how he described it. So from that, I did the knowledge to it on my own. You know what I'm saying? And unlike everybody in this new era, like a lot of people will look at me and think I'm mad young. Like I'm 45 and I'm about to be 46. It's March. Yeah, it's New Year now. So I'm about to be 46. So as 46, I've seen a lot, man. And it's only now that a lot of stuff that happened is making sense. And in that is to say that in hindsight, everybody's a genius. So stop trying to ridicule people for coming into understandings of stuff or having to do the knowledge and for themselves first before, you know what I'm saying, they just accept what it is you're throwing out because you feel that that's what you need to do. I'm never so arrogant to think that because I'm doing this and I know this stuff and I've been in this long that I can't learn nothing either. And this is for everything. You dig? But just because people don't build on stuff don't necessarily mean that they can sail in it. And it also don't mean necessarily that they don't want to build on it. Could be that they just taking time like we was taught when we was young, you know what I'm saying, to get something right before you produce it or produce it to the people. So as this example of this ice ring shows you then that this square model is probably on a model of another square with another sphere and another situation and so forth and so on, which is why this is represented on all the Masonic floors. The checkerboards that you keep calling checkerboards or the exchequer is actually an image of the stationary earth and the varying manifestations of it between its original state, black, and its other state, basically representing this, like I showed you. It's crazy when I put it out here. Checkerboard itself is that. It is the image of the stationary earth with the thing in the cube, the black and the white, the chaotic earth, the restored earth. You see what I'm saying? So this is the world that is based. All these worlds exist at once. But this is the world that is going to be the dominant world of everything. And all others must subordinate and submit. And this is what they've been forestalling by adding 1,000 years to the calendar, by deducting stuff and all of that. So that is to get you to not understand how the body works. The body of Christ. The body of Christ being the elected physical, the arm, leg, arm, head, the vessel of the breath that allows the soul to move the body and manifest and take dominion over the earth. In the line of Dawood, who they call David, based upon he was the conqueror after Yehoshua. Yahshua. Yahshua was a conqueror. He was a conqueror Christ. If you study his they actually study Joshuan war tactics in the Army War College. Just like they study Hannibal. Just like they study Tutmosis. Just like they study Taharka. This is who they study for war. before they get into people like Salah ad-Din and all of that. And he was even a Moor, Eastern Moor, what they call Kurdish, which again was all part of Shinar, which is again all basically Tartary. All of that, everything from Babylon all the way to the fathers of China, all of that. There's maps where all of that was Tartaries, and then there's also maps where it's also listed as Shinar. Those are Moorish names. Okay, because the Moors were the ones that went to these places and mapped it out. It was not Africans that did it. They became Africans after Reconstruction, when you needed to put the Africans over the indigenous, the original people. There was no nation called the Aboriginal Indigenous world, country that was going conquering other countries and naming the countries Aboriginal or Indigenous. Therefore, those words begin and end with those who twisted them to their advantage. Therefore, if you don't have no anchorage, nothing that actually denotes that you actually had a people that fought back, then you're still property. So the body of us together is the conglomeration of all of these different tribes. Lamech, all of this is from the Bible. You can read the Bible. You can read the Circle 7 Quran. You can read the Bible, King James Version. You can read the Yusuf Ali Quran. You could read the any of those books, and the Book of Mormon. All of that gets into this, and a lot of the other books in read within the Book of Enoch, things like that. The parts of the Apocrypha, even the Kebra Nagast. Those things are all part of this story that is about the movement of your people and how we dropped the ball by not wiping all of them out, and how we suffered for it. Because again, war makes you tired. So within that, you have the line, the positive and the negative. Because remember, Noah, for whatever we want to say, right, was the last of those with the bloodline from the pre-antediluvian world. So his descendants would then be the ones to entertain or be the carriers of whatever DNA still existed back then. You dig? All of these is melanated people. All of these. They want you to think that it's Caucasian people involved with this. But what I'm telling you is that it cannot be Caucasian involved with it if it's all about you. In the idea that the Bible is about the resurrection and the redemption of the so-called children of Israel. And those children went through a great mixing and a great coming together, but they were still individual tribes with each having an individual idea. And you have many people from other nations that adopted their ways and adopted their names and started to dress like them and write their version of our story to them. What I'm telling you is that if everything was about us resurrecting ourselves, then how is any of these names that I'm showing you that are in your body that represent ancestry that you descend from or that you have access to on a spiritual, genetic, metaphysical, conscious, unconscious, superconscious level? How are you taking into account what another nation again is saying about what you are? Seek not the counsel of foreign nations. You understand? The prophet said it when he said, you got to stay under your own vine and fig tree. So when they get you out there debating on all of that, talking about there was one Eve and one Adam and how they could do this and how, like more, we ain't get into all of that. We ain't get into all of that. We got into the blood, the deed, the inheritance. You understand? Because that's where it's at. Because all of that leads to the what? The land. And the whole thing was about subduing the land and re-terraforming the whole thing. Because whatever these things was before us was whack, and they displeased the Most High. And he needed to incarnate manifestations of himself that was free and clean of all of that garbage to be able to wipe them out. But it couldn't be in the same necessarily form that they was going to be in, that the other things was in. That's what make the most sense. So yeah, I could give you a whole bunch of books and a whole bunch of Bible verses to do that, but it's already in there. There's brothers that go deep into all of this. I'm just giving you the Moorish overview of the whole thing, because they always want to make it seem like the Moors is not a part of any of this, or we was the ones that caused all of the goddamn problems. And this is the damn problem with them, because they trying to choose one ancestor over the other. They unifying with the foreign nations of Europe against Moors that's talking to their own people, and then trying to get kudos and gratitude for it. A nice shine on the head, because these niggas can't come to us directly. Like, that's not what it's about. And even if they did, who are you to ask me or comment about anything about my people just because you waking up to the fact that now you know you need us? That's the problem with niggas. Niggas is just, they're horrible. But long story short, this is the sun, moon, and stars. This is why Islam is the top, because it's the only so-called religion that is manifested within the firmament. You can't see no damn cross in the sky. You can't see no damn Krishna and Vishnu and Buddha in the sky. You don't see none of that. You see what's real. Islam deal with our self-lord master. That goes beyond the religion that started in 711 AD. Excuse me, that in the 6th century. Because what made it pop was not the actual thing. The establishment of it was when the actual Waqif was signed in 622 by the Moors. There wasn't no Arabs doing that. And some of those Moors was Christian, were Coptic. So what are you niggas talking about? And that basically happened in old Nubia, which was Abyssinia, which was the old Aksumite kingdom, right after the reign of King Elisbon. Read about him, because they were Moors too. Anyway, so this is the way that they got it worked out in terms of the firmament, the mountains, and how the water works and all of that. And it may be true. It may not be true. It doesn't even matter at this point. What matters is you understanding your place in it, so that way you know how to conquer what's to come. So you got to know the players. So this is the field. This is the agreed upon field right now, because everybody is anti-globe Earth. So okay, if that's the model that everybody's saying is the fake model, because that was what they said was the real model, then it makes sense that this is a closer to the model that they have. I think, because this is very old, that it's somewhat accurate. You know what I'm saying? But me personally, I don't see it as a dome. I don't see it as a globe. I see it as a vast expanse, a vast plane that everything exists on, almost like a big sheet of bubble wrap. And each bubble is a reality. Each bubble is one of these little geraniums that we may be in, representing an alternate aspect of that, or a greater response of that. I don't know. All I can do is go with the data that's given, like all of us. So when people speak to the point of absolute about something that is infinite, you must also question. You understand? We cannot do that neither. Because the infinite aspect of us is that aspect of us that is unseen. So if people accept this as what it is, right? That's cool. Right? But if people accept it as a globe because they haven't evolved, or they really have proven it to themselves that that's what it is, that's between them and Allah. It's not for you to waste time trying to get them to do all of that. You doing the enemy work for him now, because now you're trying to convert him and ridicule him and do all of that. You ain't like that when they was doing that to you when you first woke up. But everybody want to be a genius after they watched somebody else's DVD. But how many of you niggas actually go into the real world and get it done? You don't. You wait for real people to do it, and then you copy it, because most of these people, 70% of these people talking this stuff is not even in their own mind, their own gender, their own mind. They don't even, some of them don't even want to talk bad about you. They got to do it because somebody got a gun to their head, because that's how deep this shit is now. This is a model that is more reflective of my understanding, which explains the spiral and is reflected in everything in reality. So if it has to exist, it has to be mirrored in the mammalian world. And therefore, as a mammal, I am understanding that this is correspondent, because this has been seen by me from the time that I was born. When I dropped my first drop in my first bath, and I saw it go into the water and create the concentric circles, that was Allah showing me that I am coming from one of these realms that exists. So I don't need to get into how to get there and all that. I'm already there, which means I'm already going to be back there once this bullshit is done. So what am I going to get into a conflict with niggas that I'm trying to get this thing over with? Because most of these people talking this information now are still wrapped up in aspects of it that are counterproductive, counterinsurgency. Because the goal is to take the genetics of us. This is why you are being harvested, because of all of these ancestors that exist within you as the basis of the tribe, of the original ones that lived after the great cataclysm, after everything went crazy. And since then, those after the deluge, as it's been happening, because it's been happening since it happened. Do you think that that if this whole thing was flooded, let's say we take this model right here. You think if this whole thing was flooded to the top, if all of the water's floodgates from the firmament open here, right? And then all of this stuff came up and filled all of this. You got all this water coming down, all this water coming up. And then eventually when it broke, it parted like the Red Sea. And basically some of it went back up and some of it went back down and then started to drain. You know how long it would take to actually drain out where everything? That's what these floods and all of these things are. The devil is a lie. You keep giving this nigga all of this credit for technology and stuff that he could barely work. If the satellites is fake, then that means the HAARP shit is fake. Think about it. If the satellites ain't fake, if everything is actually being run by cables, then what they telling you to look up for? So when you need to look down, you looking up. So while you're worrying about the cell phone towers, they got this other thing popping. It's fake left, go right. The covenant with the converted giants between Israel, Canaan, and Moab. It's from Deuteronomy 29:10. Ye stand this day, all of you, before your God, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, with all the men of Israel. See, that's somebody else. That's somebody else that's now rolling with the crew. This is Canaan in them. This is the ones that knew that they descended from Noah because they was giants. Read the story. Canaan and them was giants. And when they took Canaan, they took that giant city. And those giants that was like maybe Thanos size, little small or whatever, these are the ones that decided to work what they think, because they was being exploited by the grand titans, the titanothropes, the ones that was like 2,000 feet high and all that. So they shut them down. We work the technologies, knock these niggas down, then say, okay, we're going to go to Moab and regroup. It's all in the story. This is the story. Read it. Your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in thy camp, from the hue of thy wood unto the draw of thy water, that thou shouldest enter the covenant with the Lord. This is a covenant, and into his oath, which the Lord thy God make of thee this day, that he may establish thee a day for a people unto himself. See, our own people. And that he may be unto thee a God. And as he said unto thee, and as he has sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, neither with you only do I make this covenant and oath, but with him that standeth here with us this day before the Lord our God, and also with him that is not here with us in this day. For ye know that we have dwelt in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the nations as ye passed by. So what you talking about, that Canaanite, that Canaans, or that the Moors is not down with the whole thing? How can we not? Because some of us was descended from those that seen the truth of Allah and put in work and showed the little ones how to do it. And in that, a covenant was made with us, which is why we could get our own kingdoms, nigga. From your Bible, you the Christians. Even though Yehoshua was a Hebrew, so whatever that means, but this is from your Bible. So how you hating on us? How can you hate on your brother? Deuteronomy 12, 28, 13. This from the NIV. Right? Be careful to obey all these regulations I am giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and what's right in the eyes of the Lord. The Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. That's why I say we conquerors, nigga. Once niggas unified, it was like, yo, so we got this, we got the Moab. They doing this in Moab. They talking about it in Moab. So the ones that's building with them is you got the tribes of Israel, which is a conglomeration of everybody that left Egypt. You got everybody that was in Midian. You got everybody that was in old Canaan, shut that down. They running that. Now you got the ones that's in Moab saying, look, this is how we're going to do this, but you got to follow the laws. The Lord God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. But when you have driven them out and settled in their land, 30 and after must not worship the Lord thy God in their way. Because in worshiping their gods, they do all kinds of detestable things that the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to sacrifice to their gods. See that you do all that I command you, and do not add it and take away from it. That's why Moors don't eat pork. That's why we so strict. That's why we don't take no religion. That's why we don't do none of that. That's why we not no Africans. That's why we not no Negroes. That's why we not no colored. That's why we are indigenous in terms of status, in terms of being part of the land. But I'm indigenous to the earth. Anywhere I go, I'm indigenous to that place. Nigga, what you talking about? And I can show and prove it, because they done gave me a passport to do it. While you niggas is on the internet following straight agents. Anyway. We got to get into exactly why and who this agenda is about, because you keep talking, you basic people keep talking about the same situation, and you don't understand what it is, because you don't understand the blessing of obedience. You think that being obedient is somehow evil, that having rules and having things that you have to abide by is somehow restrictive. That's how that's how Allah built the universe. He had a structure to shit. He didn't just throw shit together. That's that whole Big Bang theology that you've been regurgitating and then being restuffed in your behind when they put you through these rituals, and then you got to carry this Bible that you now feel burning in your hand. But you got to carry it. And they know it's like that just so your hand could burn. Just because you can't think. Because the burn is really the itch that you need to open it and get rid of that stuff, but you're not. So the blessings on obedience. Know it shall come to pass, if you diligently obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe carefully all his commandments, which I command to you today in the Lord your God. You will set high above the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon you. Blessed shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the country. You see how the Bible is always talking about nationality. It's always talking about people's countries. It's always talking about people, nations, tribes, and clans. People names, who they descend from directly, without this ambiguous, I'm just I'm Choctaw. Like, nigga, that was invented in the 1800s, dude. That ain't what the people call themselves. If you was Choctaw, then you would have relationship to the people in Indonesia. Excuse me, in Sri Lanka and these places. If you was, but you not. Because you don't know how to listen. You don't know how to be obedient. Obedient, again, man. The word for slave is abid. You see what I'm saying? So obedience is coming from abid. It's coming from Arabic still. Still. When they call you, when they're in Africa and they talk about you to your face in their language, they use the term abid because they know most niggas don't know that that's what it is. Just like they use the term abaki or abaku. Now it shall come to pass if you diligently obey. Blessed the country, blessed shall be the fruit of your body. See? The fruit of your body. The nations that is in you without you even knowing. That's yet to come. That's why you don't eat pork. That's why they needed you to eat pork. See what I'm saying? The body. Blessed shall be the fruit of your body to produce your ground and increase of your herds and increase your cattle and the offspring of your flocks. Blessed shall be your basket and the kneading bowl. Blessed shall be you. Blessed be when you come in, and blessed shall be you when you go out. The Lord will cause your enemies to rise against you and you to be defeated before your face. They shall come out against you. They shall come one way and flee before you 7 ways. Listen to what that says, though. In 7, it says, the Lord will cause your enemies to rise against you, to be defeated before your face. They shall come out. Remember that word, come out. Against you 1 way and flee before you 7 ways. The Lord will command a blessing on you in your storehouses and in all to which you set your hand. Okay. Remember in the Robin Hood movie with your man, with the trans people, Jamie and the trans boy from Kingsman. The what you call it? They cut off Jamie's hand. They cut off his right hand, just same way they killed his son. You see what I'm saying? And so he pledged to go back there and turn this little boy into a puppet to be able to bring down the entire thing, which is exactly basically what Morgan Freeman did. And in that movie, Jamie's name, the character, the Moor's name was Yakub. Yakub. Using the grafted devil. You see? So remember that phrase, come out. Come out of Babylon, O ye children of Israel. Okay? So remember that. So now we get into, you done seen the body. We're going to deal with the top part first. So we're dealing with everything from Adam all the way through Seth, all the way through Abraham, through Melchizedek, Noah, Enoch, Eber, right? Where we get Hebrew from, the true Hebrews, right? The Eber kings, read about them in the Bible. Or you Bible scholars reading about these people and debating people about stuff that you don't already know is real. We've all, even the white man is accepting that all the people in the Bible black. So we can just get over that and move on. You know what I'm saying? There's no Caucasian people name these names. There's no modern day Hindu looking people that you see today name any of these names. All of them people came after all of this stuff was established. Okay? They didn't add on to any of this. None of this. That's what you need to get into your mind. None of this had anything to do with the people today that you call Caucasian people the way that you understand them Caucasian people to be. None of these people were even Caucasian that we're showing. Even the people, the Arabs or whatever they want to tell you, show you pictures of these people, was that's not true. All of this was established beforehand, and it ended with the prop, basically with Ali. So all of these nations basically is under this. We're gonna get into the Baha'i thing too, because it's actually kind of dope. But they still might have stuff, behind the scenes, because there's a lot of white people wearing turbans and stuff. So you gotta watch stuff like that. But anyway, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne, meaning that there's always an heir. What is that? Jeremiah 33:15, right? Which is basically Jeremiah 6:6, which is knowledge to wisdom, which is understanding. Therefore, each one of us at any given moment can just be put on a throne somewhere, put in front of a corporation somewhere, and run it. That's what it say in the Black's Law Dictionary, don't it? The Moors are the bailiffs of 100. It don't say that the Africans are the bailiffs of 100. But what's the hundreds? The hundreds are every corporation that was created by the British East India Company and that has existed since then. Because even though that they were going to screw everybody over in the empire, they still had to leave a way for you to be able to be put in control just in case they got found out. That's the only way they can keep it. The devil still got to show you his little tail. Just to make the game fair. Just so when Allah come down with the judgment, he can say, but look, I did put it out there. I showed them. I told them I was a man in the interview. They laughed. They thought I was joking, but I did tell the truth. This is what you're dealing with. This is their heaven. They know that they have no future now. It's over for them. So this is all they got. So now you and I have to become the food now to feed them. Because they feel if they ingest us and put pieces of us in their body, when Allah come, he won't kill them. That's how sick these people are. And none of these so-called YouTubers that's building on that is building on that. I ain't see one Caucasian person talk about specifically where these organs is being harvested and whose organs is being harvested the most. Because it don't affect them yet. It do, but it don't. You know what I'm saying? None of them. But these niggas talking about they backing them up. Like, these niggas is sick, yo. They sick. 3 stages of earth. The first stage, the second stage, the third stage. See? Antediluvian dispensation. This is what needs to be taught in school. Think about if they dated the time that you were born, from the time that you were, let's say, conceived, and they started creating a whole disc for you of everything that was happening up until you was born. You don't need to do that now because the internet is there. But in a sense, specifically for you. So that way, as soon as you were born, this is now what you're shown. This is what you can now draw from to know specifically how these things or what was dealing with. All of that got cut off from us in order to be incarnated here in the present age. In this dispensation, this is the nexus point. The so-called Vatican, the so-called Venetian Addis cult, these are the people that's really doing it. And the way that they've been able to make it run is by making everybody that's down with them ultimately down with them. You think it's just about money. You think it's just about power. It's not. That's the downstairs aspect of the game. They are trying to get into the ages of ages because now the new earth, the perfect earth, is on the way. It's already here. And we got to go through the renovation now through the fire because we already went through the water. So what they now saying, they got to do that. So in order to go through the fire, they have to understand how that works, how the light bands interact. They got to manipulate how the information is stored. So whether people believe that it's whatever type of earth it is irrelevant. The fact that it is at a stage where people are literally willing to dename themselves, to have no name, Basically, what they're saying is that they've gotten humanity to the point that you are willing to say that you don't exist. So if you don't exist, that means you don't have the right to own anything. See how beautiful that is? It's beautiful. You've already set yourself up for the fall. And they prime you. They prime you and they prime you. And because we're so hardy, people are so hardy and so into being right all the goddamn time, that it becomes a situation of mass exposure. But you gotta understand, this whole culture, this whole expose culture that we live in, it's still the same thing. We're still all contributing to it. How are we not? The more people we wake up, the more people actually start to wake up and then start to question, and then now they have to deal with all of the people that's trying to keep them asleep. You see the cycle? This is what I'm saying. It's a consistent redundancy. Therefore it's quantum. This is reality. All light from the top come down. You understand? And reflect back up. This is the element of everything that we just talked about. This is creation. This is how it works. So what they're really doing is trying to flip the actual band frequency, so that way you can't identify where you are in the thing. So when Allah come, nothing when everything is manifest, when the judgment come, I can't say when Allah come because Allah's already here, but when the actual judgment comes, you dig what I'm saying? It's over. So if this is the model, right, that everybody is agreeing on now, right, that means that within this realm, this would make total sense. This is what we just read. This is hell at the bottom, right? Everything at the bottom. Then we start getting up to the top. Now we go on earth with the greenery, right? Then we moving up into the clouds. Then we move into the waters. Then we move up into the astral and the ethers and the ionosphere, and then up into the violet amenta with the great God Allah. You see what I'm saying? So what do? They invert it. They invert it. They put the top down. They put the base part at the top. So all you think about is desire. You don't think about the great hereafter because you're not understanding that the hereafter is the great right now. Because they create movies about time travel and stuff. And those are great movies because it's true, but it's not true the way we think. It's true the way that they need us to think is true. Which then means it's a lie. So this is the rainbow. This is the rainbow. This is something else. This has nothing to do with light at all. This has nothing to do with freedom at all. This is the exact opposite of how it is. But millions of people are flying this and identifying with it, when really what they're identifying with is something that they don't even understand. They don't even understand. So they have already X'd themselves out of any real thought or any real consideration in anything. Not because I say so, because they'll never be able to understand when things open up and you see it like this. They'll never be able to deal with it. Their minds would just explode like the vampires in the movies. They'll just explode. So I've done things on genetics and things like that. And again, I'm not trying to always talk about the differences between us as human beings or the species of human beings, but I am an advocate of original human beings, because original human beings are the ones that have been preyed upon the most. In regards to what you want to say, how you want to view it, it doesn't matter. What matters is that's what's been happening. And so until you can tell me why babies are being eaten and killed by these people all over, and yes, they're doing it to all babies, white, black, all of that, but for some reason, when it comes to black ones, they are going the most on the market. So that means there's something in that genetics of those so-called babies that is leading to a phenomenon. Okay? It's needed for something. And so until you can talk to me about this, truther, or whatever you call yourself, or whoever, right? Why specifically original babies is targeted, and this is the price values for all of them. Just the same graph they showed us when they used to show us, and they used to have economic class or social studies class, and they used to show us how they used to make money off of cows. The U.S. Select Panel on Infant Lives releases details of transactions on the sale and purchase of fetal tissue in aborted babies. So then here goes somebody trying to get out of it. They're going to be like, oh, well, they talking about, babies is dead already. Yeah, but that don't matter because they just passed laws and another state's about to do it where they can kill, where if you are born, once you're born and if you're born alive, they can have the right to just kill you off top. And they've been doing this. There's many people who've had abortions, babies have been aborted, and the abortion don't take, and they have to go to measures and actually kill the baby now. Strangle it, burn it, throw it in the cooler. This is what it is. So, but we'll get more into that later. Right now, as you see, we've gone through the aspects of creation that are relevant to us and we as Moorish Americans. So I've already proved that in the Circle 7 Quran, where it talks about the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Hamathites, and whoever went and asked permission for the pharaohs of Egypt and all that or whatever, and that we are considered Hebrews as well because we represented both peoples, the peoples that was already had left Canaan, the peoples that were so-called Egyptian, and the peoples who conglomerated the mass groupings of people who considered themselves of these tribes. Because it wasn't just one person. It wasn't just one phenotype. It was not one type of Moor was an Israelite, but all of the Israelites, in a sense, were Moors, meaning Asiatic in the beginning, before everybody else. Period. So that means that their genetics is the baseline genetics for everybody that came after. Therefore, everybody that came after can have varying aspects of their genetics, but they cannot have their direct genetics, which means that everybody then is different. So stop telling me that we are all the same genetically, because we are not. If that was the case, then you would not have to have an app on your phone that gives you sun degrees to be able to stop melanoma boils from busting out on your face. I don't have to do that. So stop trying to convince me the same way you're trying to convince me that certain people are men and they're not, and women and that they're not, that I am the same as this so-called African or anybody else. I'm the same as my people. And there should be nothing wrong with that. Israelite, Moabite, Canaanite. Because this is descended from somebody that had babies with the daughters of men. And those daughters of men wind up having things like this. And then these things, when we get in there to shut everything down, they get in dissed by their peoples and all that. So they decide to basically convert to Islam. And now they are free. And they work with us to get rid of everybody else and help flip the technology, build the mounds, build the cities, do all of that, and still have time for their own. And then throughout the years, these people eventually start to get smaller or whatever, or go within the recesses of their own thing and stay this size in some places. I'll show you images of Moors this size in the 20s with fezzes and turbans. Dummies. So that is all to disrupt the coming of the black hole sun. Read the lyrics to what was that, Soundgarden? Yeah, Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun. And look at the video. It's all about what we're going to be going through, talking about as we go through this aspect of it. So now that we've gone through the pre-creation world, pre-flood world, we get into all of the kingdoms and those peoples that was running it and doing all of this stuff and all of that. We know all of that. That's dope. Now we get into the deluge. We get into what happens now after we done took these kingdoms and we done conquered everything, because that's what Allah told us to do. Because we not suckers. We not weak, and we not destructive or disruptive. We don't take what is not destined for us to take, unless you don't pay tribute to Allah. By Allah, I do not mean the religion of the Arab Allah. I'm talking about that which predates him, which in the old tongue was Allah, that you guys, the Hebrews or whoever, converted into Yahweh. So don't hate on me, because I know who Il really was, and who the Elohim really was, and the fact that we Moors have Il in our name to represent the Elohim, as was taught by our prophet, who was down with the Moorish Zionist temple of Moorish Jews of Harlem, as well as the Royal Ethiopian Order, as well as the Nubian Islamic Hebrews, as well as the Moorish Buddhist Christians, and all of the other societies that existed that they didn't conceal from you. Africa, the word, right, means terra, African land, Libya, the Carthaginian territory, the province of Africa, Africa as a continent. Adjective, Africus, from Afar and African, a word from uncertain origin. They say it's uncertain, but look what they say. The Latin word originally used only in reference to the region around modern Tunisia. It gradually was extended to the whole continent, a derivation of the Phoenician cognate of the Morabic, which is Arabic, afar, meaning dust or earth, is tempting. See that? From the English word Afrik or Afrique, a freak. Okay? So even the word Africa comes from Latin, and it meant the African land that was under Carthaginian control as a province. So Africa was the throne, America was the home. And that's why they need you to be African, so you don't claim nothing that you hear. So what's a Slav? A Slav is, according to their dictionary, so when you say that you're an African slave, think about what you're really saying. So I'm going to put this in the middle. This is an image of America. Now, if this was an image of America, why would they put a black so-called woman, an Asiatic woman, with a feathered crown and her hair wrapped in Egyptian braid, holding a bow of Artemis? Why would they do that? Petting a lion. She was probably a giant, and we could tell she's a woman. Look at her shoulders. Look at the softness of her face. Look how pretty she is. This is actually a woman. We could tell too by the fingers. See how close her fingers are together. That's a girl. That's a woman. See how long her finger coming. That's a woman. See, all the old pictures, the original people look. See, that's a woman. So the sklave or the sklav or the sklav or the tslav or the slave or the slave. That's how you're supposed to say it. From medieval Latin sclavus. Latin again. There it is again. Latin from the Byzantine Greek sklavos. Right? Somebody always owning them. From Old Church Slavonic Sloveniu. A Slav, probably related to Slovo, word or speech, would suggest the name originally identified a member of a speech community. Compare Old Church Slavic Nemesi, Germans, related to the Nemu, dumb, Greek, heritophonos, foreign, literally of, different voice, and Old English, piod, which means both race and language. So basically it means dumb Germans, right? This is what it means. It means Slavic Nemesi, German. So it means dumb Germans who are foreign of a different voice. That's what it means. And because it was Latin that it was put in first, this means that they were under the jurisdiction of Latin-speaking peoples, and Carthaginian was the oldest Latin-speaking country, older than Rome. We were speaking Latin before that. That's where everybody got it from. And we've also, just in 2 seconds, just compromised everybody who say that they African, and that's it. Africa was the contingent of Carthage, and Carthage was run by Moors. So that means that that was a territory, a province that we Moors ruled. That's why certain Moors have more connection over here than other so-called Africans. That's why the Moors went over there under Mansa Musa and basically restarted the whole economy, took them out the Dark Ages, built the schools, built the libraries, then sent the work back over here through Abu Bakari to help us out with the Genghis invasion and the invasion of the Spanish in the 13th century. Read about it. These niggas don't know. So again, you were descended from an African slave. That means that if you really think about it, you would have to, in order for that to be true, you would basically be asking reparations from the Moors. Because you were under our territory. That's why I guess y'all hate. That's why y'all mad. Because y'all wasn't speaking Latin. Y'all was just in the wasteland working with the Portuguese or whoever else y'all was dealing with. You know what I'm saying? But that ain't got nothing to do with us. So we already bust that down. That's why the internet is great too. Because I was just thinking about stuff. I went online. It was on my Facebook page. Somebody just posted stuff. It's like, this is exactly what it is. That's how Allah work. Like we're in the time of miracles, man. Where the thing you just thinking about something, you go online, there it is. Like, oh, word, thanks. You know what I'm saying? So again, the image of America, as we see, is an Asiatic black woman, not an African. She don't have African features, does she? No, she doesn't have African features. She has American features. She has the features of the people that she come from. Because that's who she is. You know what I'm saying? Let me get this. So now that we've established what Africa is, where Africa is, and all of that, cool. Now we get into why it was like that. Forget the complexions. Look at the fezzes. Look at the turbans. Look at all of this. This is the problem. This is when it all started going crazy. When you read the Bible and it talks about the flying wheels, the wheels within the wheels. Read the book of Ezekiel. It talks about the wheels within the wheels and how the wheels within the wheels manifested and brought forth that. Everybody thinks that this is the mother plane. I don't think this is the mother plane. I think that these are the things that these things have been using or been manifesting as the cities when we bounced and stuff like that. Like in Close Encounters at the end, when the ship turned upside down, you see it was a whole city. This is what the movie Mortal Engines was about. It's showing you that when it got real hectic, some of us got in stuff and bounced. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think they bounced to a whole nother world, because that obviously don't exist. They mean that they got to go to another plane. You understand? It's a plane, one of the other black boxes on the checkerboard. And then everybody was left had to then basically do what was needed, subdue everything, conquer everybody, put everybody in line, get to a situation of some sort of semblance, because there was no God, there was nothing, there was nobody doing anything of anything substance value for anybody. Children were just being born just to be eaten, just to be sacrificed. You understand? Total lawlessness, total anarchy, total debauchery. Sound familiar, right? Sound like exactly where we at now, because it is. Because it is the same time. It's the same people. It's the same situations doing the same thing. There's a conspiracy theory that says that we're basically still living the book of Acts. What happened in the book of Acts? That's the book that Jesus was actually the real description of what happened to him. He was hung from a tree. So all of his descendants got to be hung from a tree. So because the original woman was the reason, the only reason why that Adam, if we're going to go by the story, left was because his woman was going to go. You dig what I'm saying? Like he was alone. He didn't know nothing about sex until this whole thing happened. So he damn sure not going to be there for Dolly. So he going to do what he going to do and make the best of it. This is where cities, this is where everything come from. See how she's sitting on the turtle? See how she got her foot on the turtle? Come on, Moors. Look. Holding the fruit. Virgo. The United States was founded under Virgo. Get the book Secret History, Secret Destiny of the United States of America. This is called an emblem of America. I mean that this is a huge painting. This painting is huge in real life. They call it the emblem of America, just like the other image I showed you of America. See her on the lion? See her standing on the lion? And the baby with the lion, and the lion ain't even flinching? That's showing you how peaceful it was here. That shows you how much dominion we had over here. That's why the lion was adopted by James. And James had the lion to symbolize the unification of the children of Yaqub in Albion, after it was taken in the old times from the giant Albion by Brito or Brutus, who himself was the Greek. That's why in the Bible it said, you're not Greek, you're not this, you're not that. So why y'all niggas keep using Greek words to describe yourselves? It say that in the Bible. The same Bible that y'all say that y'all upholding and y'all doing this, y'all causing confusion. You obviously haven't read the book of Micah when he talks to the Moabites and talks to them. Those are the Moors. Like, what are you talking about? I done showed you the Moors as Canaanites. I done showed you the Moors as Hebrews. I done showed you the Moors as Phoenicians. I done showed you the Moors as Carthaginians. It's like, what more do you niggas want? Like what are you talking about? Where is the conjecture? Where is the problem? Why is it a problem that we Moors claim our ascendancy based upon what we understood and what we were able to piece together by what our prophet led us? He's not your prophet, so what the fuck you care what he say? The more they come out against you, anybody that come out and say anything about Moors negatively is an agent. I'll go on record and say it. You agents. You agents. But I'm gonna show you what you an agent of, though. Like y'all don't know already. Anyway, so in that, we've just seen what happened. So we're going to close this one out, and then we're going to start another one to go into the next part. Well, wait, before I do that. So we went through all of that. I took you through the pre-flood world. We done went through all of that. So we know there was that. We know that all of these disasters that be happening, that we are giving this devil all the credit for, is happening because he's the devil, but it's also happening because of all the old devils that Allah had to wash away not that long ago. And the waters is still receding. But we call these waters tsunamis and hurricanes and this and that. And yes, he may be piggybacking on it, but I do not believe that if they propagating the energy to say that they have it, then that means they don't have it. It's always the opposite. What are y'all talking about, man? How they lying about everything else, but they telling you the truth about that? Fuck out of here, man. I've been on this YouTube for years. I ain't see very, very few people of other nationality even talk about Moors. Now that we on the rise, that's all these niggas is coming out with. Who's a Moor? What's a Moor? What they do? They can't do it. That's what I'm saying. That's how you know. They trying to get in before the door closed, Moors. I'm telling you. Every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess he is Lord. That is what it say in they book. But Moors ain't never had no problem with Isa. When you read the book Stanley Lane Poe, the Golden Age, Stanley Poole, the Golden Age of the Moors, it says that when under the Moorish dominions, the Christians, the Hebrews, and the Moors lived in such harmony that one could barely tell one from the other. And they said it was like that for thousands upon thousands of years. So what are you niggas talking about? You talking about the time it went bad, but you ain't talking about all of the centuries that led up to somebody that could even call themselves Spanish. You understand? Look, this from the book Time Walker. Look, spoken languages that was spoken in Morocco today is Shla, which is an old Tuareg type language, Bambara language. That's another thing. The Moors are Bambaris or Bambarians, if you want to call it. Bambara, as they say. Also Traza, also Draha, also Draha, Traza, Bambara. There's another one too. I'll get to it when I remember. Anyway, they speak Shla, Tamazid, Riffin, French, Spanish, but no Moorish language, meaning no Latin. As American Indian, you get to know the white man who gives names as well as stealing them. For Dakota, he came up with the Sioux, which is French, Old French, describing a type of drunk. Can you imagine North and South Sioux for the state names? North and South drunk. There is another he kept straight, Minnesota, which could be expanded to mean 10,000 lakes, right? There are many more taken from the Indian. It would stand to reason that he stole the word Moor from the Indians, meaning the original Moors, so he could hide the true word for a culture, a language, a people, and an empire. If he did, it would have been it would have been for a damn good reason, because we the only ones that stood up to the great Satan and established empires to make sure this nigga would never happen, and we would keep our foot on his neck while all you Africans was converting to Christianity. All you sellout Indians was converting to Christianity. All of you heretic Christian Hebrews was selling out to Christianity. That's what y'all was doing. Y'all wouldn't even become Coptic Christians. You had to follow these dudes. That's what we're going to get into in the next joint. But let me close out. I want to always close out with something to set up for the next. So when it really comes down to it, when the prophet said that there was two empires, only two races of people on the planet, he really only talking about one race, but he talking about that one race divided into the different sections that manifest as the body that I showed you in the beginning of the graph, with all of the ancient ancestral DNA tribes that came, were yet to come, that have come, that exist, that will exist simultaneously. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a real thing. Moors are real people that they have been burying, and they want to get people that look like you to say it, because most of these people, if you think about it, that's saying this, they identify with being African. Therefore, they are following exactly what their ancestors did to our ancestors that came here. They are going and they're using the pale gods of Europe allying with themselves, same way they Congolese and Africanese or whatever knees ancestors that was on their knees did, got with them and said, look, we're gonna be whatever you need. We just need to get out of this wasteland because these Moors, even though they gave us mad gold and stuff and all of that, it wasn't good enough. So after Spain, now that Spain is gone, it's like now we can have our time in the sun. So in the end, we're going to end it with this image to show you the Moors, both here in America, with the fez, the red fez and the turban, showing the land that they come from, the land they own. Here's the Eurasian Moors, the Moors from Eurasia. Look, dark-skinned Moor chilling, just chilling on the ground. Look at the Moor chilling with the, what's that? Is that a fez? Word? Yeah. Red turban. I wonder why. Look at this Moor. The Sufi type turban. The Mongol type. Right? Manifested. Look at him in the back. Look at him in the back with the fez on. Look. Haters. That's why you hate. That's why you hate. The Tartarians was Asiatic. They were part of the Eurasian Empire. That's right. That's right. So I'm going to open it up with this picture in the next joint. And then we'll get into the conquering period. And then we'll get into the beginning of the fall. But we must fall to rise, inshallah. And again, I want to give thanks to everybody who support. And again, everybody else that's Moorish, that's Asiatic, that's exposing all the agendas, no matter what they are. I'm specifically doing this for my people. And I just want to go on record saying that my people first. Okay? Because everybody put my people last. So there's room for everybody to come on. But it's about us first. It's about us as men standing up and putting putting her back on the throne, putting her foot right back on the top of the turtle, so that way we can hold it down, so she can create a whole nother race of gods, in the new world for Allah's kingdom, so that way we could do our thing. You know what I'm saying? This is specifically my agenda. If there's an agenda for the Moors, it's to uplift fallen humanity in the image that you see of the prophet walking on the water, on her arm, in some pictures it's on her leg, is the word humanity. So again, that means us. So look, the same picture, the three pictures representing America. This picture, we got what? Fruit and baskets. What do we got in this picture? Look, fruit and baskets. Look, fruit baskets. Look. Fruit. Then what do we also have? We have a lion in this one. Boom, we got a lion in this one. Then we got the robes. We got the Moorish robes. All the head is always covered though. Always covered like Ruth, because she is what? She's a sheikess. She's an Asiatic sheikess from the original continent. And look, she's girdled by the flag of her ancestors. And what's that above the door? What's that in the royal arch, in the Canterbury arch? What is that? A turtle. Just like the turtle that we see here. Look, even in this building behind here, look how Tartarin it is. This is some old building. This is mad old. And it's lower than the sidewalk. Look. Look how far down it go. Look how far down it go. Look. So again, man, everything in plain sight. Everything always in plain sight. So we're going to get into the next joint in a minute. Thank you guys. We're going to go. Peace.